Hello and welcome to All Lit Up with me, Gilly Fogg, head creative at Lighthouse Studios in Kilkenny, Ireland. This is the series which talks to creatives of all kinds about the spark that lights up their work. In today's episode, we're talking to Steve Levy, Vice President and Executive Producer at Harmonious Claptrap, Dan Harmon's production company. Steve is integral to all Dan Harmon productions, including KRAPOPOLIS, Haunted Hotel, and Rick and Morty, which we know very well here at Lighthouse. In my conversation with Steve, we talked about writers' rooms, obsessive fans, work-life balance, and finding comfort in TV. Also, his short film choice, the iconic Rejected by Don Hertzfeldt. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoy this listen. So let's get all lit up. If you are sitting comfortably, I would love to ask you what you grew up watching. Like, what did you watch as a kid on Saturday mornings?
Oh boy. Well, I don't know if it was because my parents didn't want to deal with me or if it was just they had a love of entertainment, specifically my dad, and that was a way of bonding. But I grew up watching all sorts of things from like cartoons like X-Men, which they made that sequel series of on Disney Plus, Spider-Man, then like Nickelodeon, like Doug and Rugrats, Our Real Monsters, the occasional Ren and Stimpy. That was a little too gross for me. Anyway, those were probably the most watched things in my childhood.
So really, you found Ren and Stimpy too gross. This is the person who spends so much time on Rick and Morty, and you found Ren and Stimpy a bit gross.
Yeah, as a kid, I get, there were, I just didn't, it didn't connect with it. It just didn't make sense to me. Yeah, I didn't find comfort in watching that show. If it was on, I would watch it. But like something like Cat Dog, I connected more to like that could be a little gross at times. But Cat Dog and Angry Beavers were steps closer to what I liked than Ren and Stimpy.
That's a really nice word to use, is comfort, like finding comfort in what you watch.
Yeah,
That's true for a lot of kids, isn't it? Because it's not just entertainment, basically, is it? It's
yeah.
you're looking for that place that you can relax and be entertained. Did you identify sort of as like a cartoon nut or
I didn't. I just assumed as a kid, like everybody watched cartoons. It was just something like you just grow up doing. I didn't go like I'm a cartoon guy only or a live action guy. I didn't even see like a difference between those two mediums. It just is.
yeah, that's right, because it's all about the story and the characters.
Yeah.
And of course, you've done so much work on Community, and Community is all about comfort. I love watching Community.
Yeah.
There's so much love and care between the characters. So do you try and bring what you were looking for as a kid into those shows?
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I think like my wanting to continue working with Dan Harmon on this deeper level was because he did create these shows where you do like you want to be friends with and live with the characters because they, in a lot of ways, represent different parts of like how you might feel at times. And there is such a comfort just hanging out at the study room table with the Community cast. I fortunately got to work on Community, but it was only on the last season, which we had to wrap up the series. But it was an honor and an absolute blast to get to start my time with Dan on that show.
Mm. And so you started working with Dan Harmon, and your role now, on paper at least, is executive producer, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's such it's such a well used term, but it means a lot of different things
Yeah.
depending. So if you had to describe what you do in your role, I mean, is it the same across all shows?
Uh, no, I think it could start as similarly across all shows, and then based on how the shows move forward, you adapt because we have such a big operation. We have Rick and Morty, which has 3 seasons in different stages of production at any time. So, like, you guys are animating season 9. and that's coming back in color. So we're in post-production. We have season 10 in production, which we are getting ready to ship to you. And then season 11 just started writing like a month ago. So there's those seasons. And then we just announced the spin-off show, President Curtis, which is in its first season. And we've shipped like more than half the episodes to you guys, and you're animating those while we finish production on the final ones. And that show is about to hopefully start maybe a second season writing, hopefully at some point soon. And then we're going to get into the cadence with that. And we have Crapopolis, our Fox show, which is in post production on season 4 and writing season 5. And then we have Haunted Hotel, which premieres in September. And that show is totally wrapped and hopefully going to start a second season sometime in the near future. So based on like where everything is on the TV side, I have to be nimble and shift and prioritize based on like what project needs me where and when. And the hope is that like Dan and I can take our hands off more and really trust and empower our showrunners and writers and producers, everybody that works with us on these shows to do their best work and not need us to meddle in any way. I think like Crapopolis is a great example of that. Like I was in the trenches with our showrunner, Alex Rubens, for a very long time, getting that show to a really good place of like, it's a well-oiled machine. And now I'm cheering on the sidelines, reading material and watching cuts, but not giving too many notes because I trust that team to make the show the best version of it can be without interjecting anything. Like they get it. And then like a show like Haunted Hotel, Matt Roller, the showrunner, is an amazing writer. He came up on Community and Rick and Morty with us. And there's nothing I can say or Harmon's going to say that's going to really better that show on paper. But Roller hadn't done as much like physical animation production. So I would step in and help with like bringing on the right people to do design work or, giving notes on the visuals or helping on that side of things until he kind of got a lay of the land and could do all that stuff himself. But then on Rick and Morty, and then Rick and Morty is our bread and butter. And I'm a lot more involved in every process of those productions. And that can span from like negotiating deals to figuring out schedule with getting Dan to be certain places. I mean, the real challenge on Rick and Morty, especially now that we have the spinoff, is like, how do we keep both shows moving on schedule, on budget, at the same time? Because both of them have so many different processes going simultaneously. So a lot of the day to day is like trying to push things forward as best as we can without impeding any of the processes on each individual show.
Wow, okay, so there's so many logistics there. That's a lot.
Yeah.
If there was one area that you could dive into, going back to comfort, that's like your comfort zone,
Hmm.
what part of the process would it be? What's your favorite bit?
I love it all. It's changed through the years. Like I used to love being in the edits with Dan and just watching every cut and giving notes and making things tighter, cleaner, funnier. Even just being a spectator to Dan's process is like such a dream. And I've done it for well over a decade. So I'm very fortunate just to see him like those creative gears turn and how he can like really amplify story structure or character moments and comedy. And then like as we got deeper into having more of like a larger business, I think I started to really love the challenge of juggling everything simultaneously and trying to like grow a business that can be efficient without really sacrificing any sort of creative quality. So that's been really fun, especially since the beginning of COVID, because that's when things like really scaled up for us. I mean, we had other shows that came and went, like Little Demon or Strange Planet, that we loved, but it's been such a tumultuous time in Hollywood that some of these things unfortunately get the axe a little too soon.
I can hear, when you talk about Dan Harmon, how much you respect him and how much you really believe in the way he works. Is how do you think that is for like for you? You know, you say you're really trying to, not trying to. You are empowering the showrunners of the other shows.
Yeah.
What do you think it's like for them to come into a place where the person on top is so revered? And I know his process is very exacting.
Well, I think that we don't typically hire showrunners from outside of our circles. So, like Alex Rubens on KRAPOPOLIS is another guy he wrote on multiple seasons of Rick and Morty and multiple seasons of Community, and he came up with Key and Peele on their show and wrote movies with them. And Roller's been all around the business from live action to animation and came up with us. And then James Siciliano, our showrunner on the President's Show, he started as a writer's assistant on Rick and Morty and has worked with us for 7, 8 years now. So actually probably longer. But anyway, like these guys, like they know the process. They know how Harmon works and it doesn't impact them as much. Like they know how to roll with those punches because Dan could come in and blow something up at any point in time, but it's always for the better. It's just a matter of like being a leader and managing the team and the production. You know, show running is a truly great showrunner knows how to be nimble and work with the people beneath them to achieve a compromise that doesn't deliver late or over budget or and doesn't really sacrifice much quality or creative. It's a really hard tug of war.
One point of view, or one many points of view that you get confronted with and you have to deal with on a now daily basis, I'm guessing, are your fans.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people are verging on the obsessive about Rick and Morty. They love the show. They've got really strong opinions about it. How do you deal with that?
Uh, we don't.
Ah, yeah,
We,
yeah.
you know, we make stuff that we love our fans, and they're all like, it seems like very artful in their own ways. There's so much fan art and like creative thinking about the show being discussed online, which is amazing. Like anyone who wants to take time out of their day to have discourse about like the characters or the plot of anything that's going on in our shows, like that's why we do it. You know, it's people connecting to the material and wanting to like meet other people and talk about it. So Dan's line has always been like, we're not going to read any of that stuff. And if somehow we end up hearing like somebody's thoughts on the show or guesses as to what's going to happen, like that's something we absolutely can never do in the show. It's not often that we're hearing people try to figure out where we're going with the overall plot of Rick and Morty, for instance. But if ever something does come across our desk, that means we'll never do it.
Wow, that's fascinating. I imagined with this huge fan base that what they call a hive mind that you could tap into, but no, it's actually the opposite. You just like close that door.
Yeah, because it's like anything anyone could think of, we want to beat it. We want to be crazier and better. We have a room full of the best writers in Hollywood, and we strive to make the craziest, most thought-provoking television that we possibly can. And so, like, it would feel lazy to just like hear a good idea from an outside source and be like, let's just roll with it, you know? In our writer's room, it's always like, how do we push this even wilder? Like, how do we one up this? Like, there's always like someone could have a crazy pitch. Let's say like Heather Campbell pitching the spaghetti episode where like if there's an alien race that dies by suicide, then their insides turn into delicious spaghetti. It's like that pitch. Dan was very on the fence about figuring out how to make it work, but once we got over the threshold of like we're going to do this episode, the question then became like how do we make it more than just this sketch of like there's this alien race and it's like this heady concept of this is where great spaghetti comes from. Even like the idea itself is wild, but then it's always then it becomes like how do we push it further? So that's kind of how the room operates.
Very cool. And you do have a lot on your schedule, on your plate, as they say, speaking of spaghetti. How do you keep that any sort of work-life balance?
Um, well, It's taken me a very long time to kind of reconcile with that. I came to a point in more recent time where like I felt like I had, I hate to say wasted my 20s, but like really hyper focused my 20s on my career and sacrificed experiences, travel, friendship, community, possible relationships, just so focused on my work and getting ahead in my career. And also, I do want to say that, like, most corporations, especially in America and especially in Hollywood, like make you feel like you're only worth as much as your success in your career. And I started to see more and more like people go like, oh, that's Steve Levy, that's Harmon's guy, or he's like, or like he's the Rick and Morty, he's a Rick and Morty guy, you know. I didn't want to be defined by that anymore. It's like, yeah, that's a part of me, but like I'm a person, and I just want to be a good person and like have my own identity and life. And so I've been shifting a lot more like recently to be able to like turn off at a certain time. Like my phone goes into like silent mode at 7 o'clock every day. You know, I used to work around the clock, be on phone calls, meetings. It was exhausting. And there was always like massive fires burning that I was having to put out. And we've worked really hard to get our world into like a very well-oiled machine and very safe and working environment that is just filled with like kindness and great teamwork and really wonderful people. And the semblance of normalcy that we've managed to achieve for ourselves, Harmon and I, it was when I brought Monica Mitchell into the Rick and Morty fold. And then she brought Deirdre Brenner, who you know, Lighthouse is familiar with both. And they're just incredible people to have at the helm of the Rick and Morty world. Monica and I have now produced several shows together, and she's the best. So we talk every day. I probably talk to her more than I talk to my mom or any other family member, but she's my producing partner for all intents and purposes. And we push through all the challenges together.
That's so blooming evolved of you. That is amazing. Like you, it is true. You do have an incredible team to work with.
They are.
That's so nice. Okay, so if someone came along with a big bag of money and said, okay, it's time to make the Steve Levy show.
Uh-oh.
Or it doesn't have to be a show. It could be like,
Right.
what is the message you want to bring to the world that's not Dan Harmon, that's yours?
Yeah, I think like my dream project, if I were to like jump back into trying to be fully creative, I would want to create some kind of epic series that probably animated that would be like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where it's just like incredibly charming and you love the characters and there's a beginning, middle, and end set amount of time that has a lot to say and is for both kids and adults. So yeah, I think maybe one day I'll try my hand at something like that individually. But for now, I certainly have enough work on my plate.
That would be really cool if you could bring that comfort that you found in TV shows as a kid to a new show. Something that we always do on our podcast is ask our guests to choose a short film.
Hmm.
It can be anything. And it's so interesting as your choice, I think, is Don Hertzfeldt's Rejected.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
just before we talk about it, for all our listeners, the link to Rejected by Don Hertzfeldt, which is widely available online, we'll put along with this podcast. So if you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. And Steve, do you remember the first time you saw it and the experience of watching it for the first time?
I don't remember the first time I saw it. I watched it so many times, especially as a kid. I think like discovering that it existed, it was mind blowing. The way it was framed, as it's very meta. It's framed like there was an artist and he got hired by the Learning Channel or whatever to make cartoons, but they were all rejected. And you're watching these ridiculous. It's like there's text kind of explaining how the cartoons got like more insane as the artist went, but also that like the canvas of just blank white sheets of paper, the simplicity of the art, like anyone could draw stick figures and make a guy say, I am a banana, or like my anus is bleeding or whatever. Like as a kid, I don't know that I appreciated the meta aspect as much as I like just wanted the humor of it. And it was so like random and bizarre that I just remember cracking up, like sitting with my brother and watching that. And I remember my dad, after he was diagnosed with cancer, there wasn't a whole lot that was like making him laugh, but there was a time where I remember we shared the Rejected cartoons with him, and he was like hysterical. Like he also couldn't believe that something like that existed. It was just so weird.
That is a great film, and I think the ending is just so well done.
Yeah,
Steve, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you.
likewise.
It's great to see you looking and sounding so well. And I find your work-life balance very inspiring. I think we could all take a leaf out of your book. It's really great. And thank you for, all the joy and entertainment that you bring to so many homes. It's like what you do is just great. And we're really delighted to work with you and hope we work with you for a long time to come.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Cheerio. Oh, I love talking to Steve. Thank you so much for listening. Please do look in the episode info for a link to Rejected by Don Hertzfeldt. And we look forward to having you with us for our next episode. See you again on All Lit Up.